Hello everyone, and welcome to the CPA PEP modules review. This is Mike Katzman. We're going to be starting the webinar shortly. I just want to do a quick sound check. If you're able to hear me, and if you're able to see the screen, kindly let me know through the live chat. Feel free to just say hello, or feel free to say like video, yes, working, or audio, working. Can you hear me or not? Let me know, okay? Just wanted to make sure that everyone's able to hear me, and we'll proceed from here. For anyone that's just joining us, I can see that there's people joining the room and entering the room as I get started here. For anyone that's just joined us, welcome. I'd just like to welcome you to the webinar. We're just going to do a quick sound check to make sure people are able to hear everything. If you can hear my voice, if you can see the screen, kindly let me know and just kind of let me know, hey, the video quality is pretty good. Hello, and the audio is pretty good, just for us to get started here. Okay, feel free to communicate with me through the live chat, which is on the right or the bottom side of your screen. That's just the perfect way for you to be able to exchange information with me. And this is a really good starting point on how, you can kind of interact with me along with other people within the room. Okay, wonderful. Perfect. So welcome. I'm just going to see if other people can see this well. Okay. Getting some great feedback. Perfect. Okay, wonderful. So just kind of as a show of hands, where is everyone at as part of the process? Okay, so are you just starting in Core 1? Are you writing the CFE? Are you doing Core 2? Are you in the electives? Let me know. Would love to kind of, feel free to introduce yourself through the chat and let me know where you're currently at as part of the process. If you are, just entering into Core 1 or going into the CFE and we'll be writing the CFE this year, let me know. Would love to kind of get a feel for where you're currently at within the process. Just want to get a reasonable gauge for the room before we get started, just so I know how to tailor the presentation a little bit to make it relevant for all of you. Okay, perfect. So some people are starting in Core 1 in October, and that means basically that you'll be writing the December exam. Perfect. Okay. There's a few other people that are going to be doing the CFE. Good luck. Perfect. Some people are starting the electives. Other people are just starting in the process. Great. So this webinar is really ideal for anyone that's just starting in the process. Okay, so if you're going through Core 1 or doing the electives, this is a perfect webinar for you. For anyone who's doing the CFE, there's probably going to be some repetitive information which you probably already know or might not necessarily apply to you in the beginning, and then we'll talk more about the general strategies, which I do think are helpful either way. Okay, so why don't we get started? It looks like we've got a decent number of people logged in already. So why don't we get rolling and we'll get this going. So during the webinar, please feel free to communicate with me through the chat box, okay? This is a perfect way for you to ask any question which you may want to ask but haven't really necessarily thought about asking. If there are any questions at all, I am happy to pause and discuss your questions to make sure that you understand what you need to know about CPA PEP. Okay, one of the big differences between what you might find, say, under Capstone 2, or if you're going into Core 1, or if you're discussing things with the local CPA bodies, with CPA Ontario, Atlantic, Western School of Business, etc. I'm going to say that I'm probably a little bit more transparent. And I'm happy to answer any question you have very directly based on my own experience. Okay. A few other things. The webinars provided by Prep Formula are used for information and educational purposes. They're not intended to provide investment, financial, accounting, legal, tax, or other professional advice. And they're not to be relied upon as a substitute of such advice. Prep Formula is not affiliated or related to the CPA bodies. Okay, we are totally an independent educator. I'm your session leader for today. I'm the course director at Prep Formula, In the past, I've been a comprehensive marker in the National Marking Center for CPA Canada, as well as an independent contractor. I've also been involved with the Advanced Audit and UFI and CPA Prep program for York University's Atkinson program, and also have been involved as a UFI prep marker for my old firm for E&Y. Okay, so I'm going to be leading this session. It's approximately an hour in length, and it really talks more about strategies. Okay, so again, my job here is to really help you understand the process more and see how you can kind of get everything. If you're just starting in Core 1, okay, if you're just starting in Core 1 today, or you're starting the electives, for example, if you're doing a new elective that you haven't really seen before, okay, the key message that I want to explain to you is everything that you've done up to this point is going to be, very different than going into the exam. So I find when you go from, say, a university level or another international level into Core 1, it feels extremely weird because it's something so new and so different than what you've done before, okay? Similarly, when you go from Core 1 and Core 2 into the electives, it also feels incredibly different because you see a bunch of, new information, and you're required to put down all this, logical thinking into your case writing work as part of the case writing process, which, by the way, does not come naturally to a lot of people, right? So case writing is really hard. What's even harder than case writing is being the marker on the other side of the fence, marking professionally. And by the way, for the record, marking is different from facilitating. So not all CPA markers are created equal. The CPA facilitators that may work with you as part of the module or as part of the CPA Canada resources have likely never marked the exam. And the real reason for that is CPA Canada provides independence policies limiting facilitators, basically teachers, from marking the exam. Now, this might sound pretty obvious, but a lot of people don't really realize this. So when you get, results back as part of your Core 1 module, take them with a grain of salt because chances are that's not the same person that's marking your actual final question paper. So that's kind of confusing because you are relying on information provided that may not necessarily be in line with how the real exam is ever marked. Now, what I'm trying to kind of get at here is because I was a CPA Canada marker and am now barred from being a CPA facilitator and vice versa. Does that make sense? So because of independence rules, people don't necessarily want you to be able to guess or spot similarities with how with your students. Therefore, the process is, has all sorts of controls to eliminate these kind of problems. CPA markers also work very long hours, extremely long hours, okay? We see many different papers in a small amount of time, and we work on a quota system, okay? So think of your management accounting courses, okay? We work on a quota system. So we have to do a lot of different papers per hour, okay? One of the key things that we do at the prep formula level is to teach the best practices that we see after being in the marking center and seeing thousands of papers, okay? So it's not so much about just following the answer guide. It's more about trying to understand how best to please the marker. So the key point that I want to explain to you today, okay, is, and hopefully this is kind of the key message that you get out of this webinar, is because of the amount of controls that are used as part of CPA marking today, which, by the way, is very different than it was 3 to 5 years ago. In today's world, it's entirely computerized. It's extremely controls based, and it's extremely fair. Okay, in my opinion, it's extremely fair because of the amount of controls that are built in. So there's very little subjective marking that happens as part of the process. So a lot of what we teach is basically these best practices, and that's the point that I'm going to try to explain here. So what makes us different? We work with candidates on a one-on-one basis all throughout CPA PEP, from Core 1 all the way to the common final exam, known as the CFE. All of our work also is anonymous. We don't disclose any marking information or candidate data to CPA bodies. We don't have such a medium. We are entirely independent. Okay, so if you use our resources, no one knows this. For a variety of reasons. The first reason is, again, we are an arm's length organization. We have nothing to really do with the CPA body. Also, we're certified as a designated post-secondary educational institution, and approximately 1,300. Actually, this number has been increased drastically. Actually, we're now close to about 2,000 CPA candidates that have used some service from us in the past 12 months. Okay, so we are a very, very busy program. Our staff are a team of experienced CPA markers and CPA educators who all have who are all designated. Here is a few kind of sample bios. A tenure prof, a National Center marker, a Big Four program coordinator, a CPA Canada tax specialist responsible for developing exams, a published author by Thomson Reuters, and together we've worked with thousands of CPA candidates to achieve their designation. So one of the key things that I wanted to really share with you and explain from a CPA Canada marker perspective are three main themes that I find to be really consistent. Okay, the first thing is the enabling competencies. So you may understand that your exam process is requiring you to be competent in what is known as technical competencies. Okay, and without getting too technical with what that means, technical competencies are just the different subjects. Okay, so think of them as subjects, technical subjects. Technical competencies on Core 1 comprises of really 4 areas. So pretend like it's it's basically 4 university courses all in one. One on financial accounting, one on assurance, one on tax, and one on finance, all lumped into one. That's sort of what Core 1 is. Okay, now there are other competencies which you are required to understand, which are non-technical, which CPA Canada calls enabling. Okay, enabling. So we're going to talk more about what enabling competencies are, but the point that I'm trying to make here is it's not so much about telling me what the correct answer is across the 4 technical areas. In addition to this, what you have to do is focus on the big picture. So you might be reading about something that may have some sort of an impact from a tax perspective, and you would be required to somehow make the link and integrate into financial accounting, and then integrate it into assurance, okay, or audit. The idea behind integration is you see some sort of a common theme, okay, a commonality. These exams in general, CPA PEP as a concept, focuses on these enabling competencies, right? This integration. And that is how you pass the exam, okay? If you integrate, if you put things together, it's much easier for me to be able to award you marks if you can coordinate different technical areas. Does that make sense? Does that make sense so far? The idea behind enabling competencies? I want to I want to make sure that you understand that it's not so much about, answering A, B, C, D, E. It's not that kind of exam structure. You're required to know and provide a lot more stuff than just solve technical problems. It's more about kind of like real life. Someone might come to you with a problem, and they might not necessarily know how to communicate what their problem is. So in addition to what they tell you, you kind of just need to sense what's going on, and that's what these enabling competencies are. So same with the exam paper. It's going to be the same way. Number 2, you might be writing an exam for any of you that are doing Core 1 or Core 2 or the electives or the CFE, okay? You might notice that the questions look very scrambled. No reasonable human would communicate information in this way, and you are totally right. So what these exams focus on is a strategic walkthrough of all the specific areas in order to methodically put information down. So let me just go back here for a second. Basically, let me explain it very easily. the hardest part about these exams as part of CPA PEP, in general, is the case writing approach itself. Okay, information is scrambled on purpose, so you first have to unscramble it in order for you to actually get anywhere. So therefore, there's appropriate structures of writing that would be essential to help you pass under time constraint. And my suggestion is to use a computer outline approach, which will help you get to where you'd kind of want to be. And we'll go through that in a second. And last but not least, the point that I'm going to try to make here, and hopefully that you'll get out of all of this is not real life. This is as far removed from real life as you could possibly get. This is incredibly far from what would be deemed real life. So my point is, okay, here's my point, okay? The point is, anyone who approaches this from a strategic perspective and is not just there to solve a specific problem will do well. And keep in mind, you are going to run out of time. These exams are not designed to be fair. They've never been fair. So up until this point, does anyone have any questions at all? Just want to get a good feel, okay? And any questions at all before we get started? Kind of want to know where we're at. Any questions? Happy to jump directly into CPA PEP stuff, but this is kind of my check-in point where I usually just like to see if people are following along to make sure that, that I've covered things slow enough that you kind of understand them. Yes? Okay. All right. I'm not really hearing anything, so I assume that you're all either really scared of what I'm talking about and you're kind of nervous. And if you're nervous, tell me, okay? I mean, a lot of people going through the process right now are probably, pretty worried and very uncomfortable. So I would say that a lot of people, as part of the process, are uncomfortable. It's pretty normal to feel uncomfortable. So, if you are feeling that way, let me know. And I do think that that's, pretty reasonable. Okay. All right. So some people are actually saying that it makes sense. Okay, wonderful. Okay. So, now I'm going to get a little bit more detailed from here. Okay. So here's the basics of CPA PEP. And again, for those of you that have done this already, I'll skip through this pretty quickly. I do want to highlight a few things, but we'll get through this and we'll move on, okay, to more important stuff. But just bear with me here. So Core 1, for any of you that are starting in Core 1, as I mentioned, is like the equivalent of 4 university courses all in one, right? Your financial reporting, your audit and assurance, your finance, your tax. Now, please note that 70% of the reason why people fail the exam happens to be the case from what I see, okay? So in my experience, although, the structure of the exam is 3 hours of multiple choice and 1 hour of case writing, the majority of people who fail on the case writing portion. And yes, you've heard this correctly. So the case writing is really what trips people up. And this is why I'm running a session like this, just to at least explain some of the basics behind it. Not necessarily our students. I mean, here's a perfect example of someone who who went through the program and got competence with distinction, which basically is like the top 5%. So it definitely works. Now, how did that person get to that point? It wasn't magic. It wasn't anything that I've taught them. I mean, we don't give away CPA Canada secrets. There are no real secrets for you to focus on. It's just, a methodical approach. And one of the key things that I want to share with you is, together with, within the accounting world and on the exams are typically a reflection of what's happening within the accounting world. So, they will always test you on the most common accounting topics that a practitioner is likely to see. And I mean, that sounds pretty obvious, right? I mean, that does sound like pretty reasonable information, right? You would hope that they would test you on things that you're going to practice, hopefully, later on when you are a CPA. So the most common tested topics under Core 1 are revenue recognition. You'll also see a lot of IT control deficiencies. You'll be required to talk about materiality and audit planning. Financial statement income to taxes payable. There's a lot of that stuff. Personal taxes payable. Business valuations primarily through discounted cash flow projections, not really any other method. And any discussions from a financial accounting perspective that might be linked to capital assets and intangible assets. Okay, I would say that, these specific 7 topics are probably the key topics for you to really understand. Now, you'll see that some of them are obviously accounting issues, some are tax, some are, like assurance, and some are finance. But in general, this is what you see integrated throughout all cases. Okay, if you know these, you will do exceptionally well. My key kind of point here, if you're going into, Core 1 for the first time, try not to memorize technical. Instead, try to apply it through case writing. You'll remember it better. You'll be able to move through it a lot more quickly. Also, practice appropriate debriefing. Okay, reading an answer guide to something or reading an answer to a multiple choice question isn't usually ideal. Okay, what's really ideal is to try to rewrite or try to, go back into the handbook and try to, kind of go through information as a way to remind yourself why you scored lower. If you're scoring significantly lower than what you used to score in previous courses, etc., that's not something to really be worried about, because the average across the exams are probably a little bit lower than what you might expect. So there's really nothing kind of wrong with that. One of the last kind of critical points as part of Core 1, again, I am moving on, is to understand the role in the cases, okay? So this is not a fill-in-the-blank exercise. This is strictly a discussion about your role. The best candidates on the Core 1 exam are the ones that understand, for example, if you are an auditor performing some sort of an audit, and as part of that audit, you're doing some sort of work, the best candidates are the ones that pretend like they are that auditor, that actually communicate what is being required, and they envision themselves being as part of that. Okay? Those are always going to be the best candidates. Okay, Core 2, similar format, same format, 3 hours of multiple choice, 1 hour of case writing. The main difference is in the content coverage. Okay? Financial reporting, very little. Strategy and governance, predominantly management accounting and finance. A number of you might say, oh, the only difficult section here that I need to know from what this shows on like on the left side of your screen is management accounting, and I could kind of avoid strategy and like in governance. And in my mind, I think that's kind of a mistake, and a lot of people seem to, in my experience, almost ignore strategy and governance because they find it to be common sense. Does that sound like you? Who here kind of feels like strategy and governance is common sense? Is there anyone here that kind of feels that way, or as part of a case, just kind of can wing the strategy and governance section? Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead. If this feels like you, let me know, okay? Because I want to make this kind of point clear. In my opinion, I don't think strategy and governance is common sense at all. In fact, it's actually a pretty difficult section. And unless you've sat on a board and you understand kind of how, corporate governance functions and, within a company, it's actually pretty difficult to understand the way that it works, right? But these are the areas that I find people just put on the back burner. Okay, so just so be careful. One of the main areas that I find people fail as part of the Core 2 exam is they sometimes lack having experience with management accounting, because most curriculum undergrad programs do not cover management accounting at an in-depth level, okay? Mainly because there's a bunch of elective courses which you can take, and most people don't take those courses and they don't ever bother. So the reason why people fail Core 2 is for different reasons, mainly because they don't really do anything that's related to Core 2 as part of their undergrad. They might touch on, 1 or 2 courses, but it's not like financial accounting, which is taught basically since year 1. So again, a listing of the common topics that I think that you should know. And by the way, for any of you that are doing the CPA, like in this room, paying attention to me right now as part of the webinar, these are the areas that are definitely applicable to you as well. Okay, so if you can combine the CFE topics the core 1 and core 2 topics, you'll definitely see some overlap with the CPA as well. Okay, and I see a lot of ratio analysis type questions, operational budgets, cost classifications and costing methods, purchase or selling decisions, right? Like basically you're being asked for your opinion on how you should sell something. SWOT analysis, right? Like basically an external or internal analysis discussing kind of how to put down information. Foreign currency transactions, right? So that happens to kind of be a lot of that's probably one of the only accounting type subjects that I see a lot, because there could be companies that might sell across borders. And earnings per share. Okay, a few other recommendations here is practice splitting time between the numerical portion, like your quant, along with your qualitative. That's probably the easiest way to fail the process, by spending all of your time doing the numbers and then leaving nothing for the actual wording. That's definitely a quick way to fail. Also, make sure that you really truly understand the governance issues that are at hand. Okay, governance is definitely really important, and it's incredibly important for you to talk about the tone at the top. Like if you see a top level employee that's not acting within the best interest of of the company, that's probably something that you probably want to avoid. And one of the things that I wanted to reinforce, and by the way, this is the same to me from a core 1 or core 2 context. You should do the case first before the multiple choice. Okay. So now we get into the electives. You'll find that I'm going to cover 2 of the electives. You technically then have a choice between 4: assurance, tax, finance, which no one takes, or performance management. Okay. Now, most of the exam will now be case writing, okay? 2 cases within assurance and other competency areas. Within the assurance one, it's typically a lot of financial reporting, okay? And this module specifically focuses on the application of Canadian auditing standards and case writing, and not necessarily technical answers, but you do have to integrate quite a bit, okay? So the assurance elective, I think, is pretty challenging because it takes everything that you've learned so far and then focuses more on the application. So you might not necessarily be advised on what you should be fixing while you're kind of going through it. Okay, so it's sort of tricky that way. Tax is really good. If you can totally and clearly understand the requirements from a tax context, you'll do very, very well. Okay, so same structure. I mean, I do think that tax is very black and white, so I highly recommend it to anyone who is considering a elective, I guess like an elective, and is not quite set on what they want to do. So I often get a question of, which elective should I take? And I mean, if you are going through this and if you're really pondering that decision, let me know. Okay, happy to connect and happy to discuss it kind of, from your context here. And last but not least, I guess there's 2 other electives for me to talk about. Performance management, is sort of a catch-all module that people take that don't want to take assurance or tax. So it's quite popular, but definitely less popular compared to assurance. And almost no one takes finance. Finance is by far the least popular module. Okay, and it's kind of difficult to work with. So I don't necessarily recommend it for people because it's way more difficult for you to do a quant compared to doing, a case write. Then you are off into something called Capstone 1. Okay, so once you're eventually going to be done, Core 1 and Core 2, you'll jump into something called Capstone 1. Capstone 1 is a group project. It starts off with a 2-day in-classroom workshop. You'll be assigned a randomly, selected group of CPA candidates, and you must do a few things. You must prepare a presentation in front of that you're going to present as a group in front of people. You must submit a report on the group assignment, and then answer questions asked by the panel, okay? Generally speaking, this should take you approximately 10 to 15 hours a week, and we suggest for you to do additional cases above and beyond that. That's when you get into Capstone 2. And now for anyone that's writing the CFE this year, or someone who is enrolled within Capstone 2, or even if you're not, okay, one of the key takeaways that I can pretty much provide you here is Capstone 2 is meant to be a minimum, okay? It is a minimum set of cases for you to write, and basically acts as a mostly voluntary module where they suggest specific cases for you to write. Some of them you'll have to submit. And we suggest to fill up your extra spare time preparing for the CFE and practicing additional prep formal cases. So if you haven't really done that yet, kindly reach out to us and make sure that you do get access to all the cases available. Which brings me to one of my favorite slides. Okay, and actually let me just quickly stop here for 2 seconds. Now, who wants to understand how the exam is marked? Has anyone ever, by the way, for those of you that are watching this for the first time and you've never really seen anything about the CPA Professional Education Program, how many people here have seen this, like the rules to how things are marked? How many people have seen something like this before? I mean, these are, by the way, these are the exact rules on how your question paper is marked. So if you haven't seen anything like this, this is really what you need to understand. Like at a high level, this is how your question paper will be marked. Has anyone ever seen this? Just want to get a feel from people here. Okay, perfect. Okay, so some people haven't seen, some people have seen. I think it kind of depends on where you're at as part of the process. So let me just be very clear about where kind of, where you're supposed to be. And this should hopefully provide you with enough information on what you want to do going forward. Okay, so here's basically how your question paper is marked. Let me first start by looking at levels 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll get to level 1. Think of level 1 as, something that's a little bit more difficult, so we'll get to it, but let's just start with something a little easier, okay? You have to pass, by the way, all 4 levels for you to score. Conceptually speaking, this is the marking rubrics that are used, okay? They might not necessarily look like this, but this is the whole idea. So levels 2 and 3 look at issues that are in depth, okay? So let me break this down and make it extremely simple. Let's say that you are reading a case and there's one major topic on the case, okay? Levels 2 and 3 tell you out of the number of major topics, out of the total number of major topics, at a minimum, did you score 1 of them? Did you score 2 of them? Okay? So what we're looking for is a minimum number of really difficult topics that you have addressed reasonably, like basically in depth. Okay, that you've scored well on. So when you're reading the case, let me rewind again. Out of the most difficult parts of the case, out of the ones that are, that were available to you, let's say that there are 5 available to you. How many did you score well on? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 1? So CPA Canada will set a specific limit, a lower limit that you have to meet in order for you to pass levels 2 and 3. Okay? Level 4 is for all other areas that are not meant to be addressed in depth, that I would say are less important. How many did you score in breadth? Let's say that out of the additional parts, like on the case that were not that difficult, did you at least score, half of them? Or did you at least score 2 of them, 2 out of 5 again? Does that make sense? The number of issues is selected based on relative performance. It's kind of confusing for me to explain, but basically what they do at the national CPA Canada level is they assess how many of the specific total number of issues were addressed by an average candidate, and then they make that the minimum. So it's always easier for you to score based on a minimum number, because regardless of whether you have 2 out of 5 issues or 3 out of 5 issues, you still pass levels 2, 3, or 4. So it's always easier to score on a minimum number of issues. And it actually implies that for you to pass levels 2, 3, and 4, you could actually miss entire issues. Now, if you can understand levels 2, 3, and 4, level 1 becomes really simple. Level 1 is the average score across all of the different assessment opportunities. Okay, assessment opportunities are required things for you to do. So the real kind of challenge is passing level 1. So what level 1 says to you is, let's say if you were to rank every required area on a case. Okay, let's say you were to number them. Let's say that the case had 5 different things in total for you to do. What was your performance on each of the 5 compared to the average? So you were maybe a little bit higher on 1, a little bit lower on 2, a little bit higher again on 3, 4, and 5. So are you in general higher than other people or lower? Now, it's extremely easy to fail level 1. It's, in my opinion, less, it's pretty hard to fail levels 2, 3, and 4 compared to level 1. What's the, mathematically speaking, it's incredibly easy to fail level 1 because if you get one required area that you omit by accident, there's a good chance that you might fail. Okay? Because nothing drives down an average more than a 0. Right? A 0 is totally allowed under level 2, 3, and 4, right? Like levels 2, 3, and 4, but zeros are not allowed under level 1. So my point to you is it's better to be mediocre across all different assessment opportunities instead of being a superstar in a part of the exam. The way that you pass the CPA PEP module exams is you score reasonably well in all areas. And the consistency, which is now called sufficiency, by the way, the consistency is really what helps you kind of get better. Okay? So I think that's kind of really the most critical part for you to explain. Okay? Now you get into the CFE after that. Okay? So finally we're at kind of like the CFE level. And day 1 is something that's based on the enabling competencies. It's basically a separately identifiable pass-fail exam. Okay? And communication skills are essential. And a super detailed response is not essential. It's, you're not supposed to fully, solve issues as part of the CFE day 1 day. Okay, you're supposed to just communicate and explain how your users are affected by different decisions, which, by the way, is incredibly different. The day 2 day is a very large, complicated 5-hour case. 5 hours. You pick one elective, right? And then you do a bunch of common areas. It's another 30 to 40 page case that you solve basically over the course of 5 hours. It's not as hard as it sounds. In my opinion, the hardest day of the CFE is day 3. So the number one reason why people fail the CFE from my perspective is specifically based on day 3. Day 3 is probably the easiest day to fail because it's 3 cases back to back, all in 4 hours. And time management becomes incredibly crucial as part of this process. So one of the hardest parts is actually even having enough time for you to be able to do and say and kind of challenge all of the possible areas. Okay, I don't want to scare you. This process is not as hard as it seems. Okay, there's just easy things for you to be kind of, there's easy traps for you to fall into. And my role is to explain what these traps are so you don't fall into them. Okay, my role is to be extremely explicit about what you're supposed to do to help you move forward and to help you understand so you don't fall into such traps. Okay, that's really the whole idea behind it. So let me be very clear. I want to show you a few common areas after being in the marking center of the things that I find to be kind of annoying as a marker. Okay, so here are the things that very easily make you lose marks, and to me they're such easy fixes. So here they are. Okay, the first one is a lack of qualitative discussion within a quant. So if you allocate all of your time to just doing numbers without ever explaining to me like the pros and cons of a decision, that's bad. Okay, if I can't really use anything from your overall discussion, that's going to be pretty bad. I won't necessarily have any other opportunity for me to award you marks. Now, let me explain just how ridiculous this sounds, okay, and why this is a real problem. A lot of people believe that everything comes down to providing me with the correct answer. So let me tell you a quick story here, okay? It's going to be very, very quick. Imagine that I come to you with an investment opportunity, okay? I'm not me, but I'm Bob. My name is Bob. I come to you with an investment opportunity, and I show you my financial statements, and you take a look at the last 10 years of returns, and you look through the financial statements, and you are very comfortable with the returns, and you're seeing 20% year over year on average growth, really good management team, etc. Okay, and let's say that this is within your risk tolerance. So I don't want anyone saying like, oh well, what if my risk tolerance is different? I don't want to invest. Assume that you do have the funds to invest, and assume that this is within your risk tolerance. Okay. So you've verified all the numbers, you've triple checked everything. Yes, in fact, I have had 20% per year. Okay? That's from a numbers perspective. Now imagine that all of a sudden I tell you that Bob, the guy who pitched this investment to you, last year was convicted of fraud. Do you proceed with this investment? Even though you've triple checked these numbers, would you still proceed with this investment? Okay. Chances are a number of you are probably now saying, no, I don't want anything to do with Bob anymore because he was convicted of fraud, right? So, the point that I'm trying to make here, really like the point that I'm trying to drive home here is basically the whole idea behind this, idea is numbers don't ever say everything, and you really have to consider the qualitative to understand whether you want to proceed with something or not. And that's really the key point, okay? So that's really the point that I want to make here. So number 2 is spending too much time working on or labeling Excel files. I think a lot of people spend way too much time labeling and, making their Excels look pretty. Does that sound like you, by the way? Are you a candidate that loves to make the Excels pretty? If you are, by the way, okay, if you are, be careful. This is not like real life. No one's going to give you a bonus on how well you highlight information within an Excel file. Try to do the quickest possible job to communicate information super, super quick to me and move on. Number 3, lack of a proper outline. What I find is some candidates don't necessarily outline properly at all. So they'll go ahead and waste basically all their time highlighting things, and they'll never build a plan on how they want to methodically put down information as part of the case. So that's another problem. Okay, that's another problem right there. So one of the other things that you kind of have to just be really careful is, you never want to attach any value to any discussion that's not linked to a proper plan. Okay, so you definitely 100% need a plan for you to be able to kind of put down information methodically. There's way too much information otherwise within these cases. Don't try to memorize. Last, no focus on big picture or users. So if you don't integrate, if you don't focus on the enabling competencies, you're going to suffer. Your mark will definitely suffer as a result. And I think it's something just for me to just, say to make sure that we're all on the same page. Okay. Always add value to your discussion and tie it directly into the user base for you to have a solid understanding. Improper formatting. Okay, so let's say that I've taught you formatting, and by the way, as part of the program, we do a lot of discussions on formatting. And let's say that as part of the format, we've talked a lot extensively about formatting, and then you try to use it and then kind of just don't apply it correctly. Well, that's a problem again. Okay, so if you're incorrectly using formatting, that's the same thing as not using a format to begin with. So just be careful. Number 6, this is going to be a very hot topic, by the way. I fully expect people to say something about this one. But basically, number 6 is copying and pasting CPA Canada handbook standards. So some people will, take a lot of opportunity to not, memorize things, and they'll just copy and paste the handbook standards, directly from the handbook as part of the Secure Exam software. And you have to be extremely careful when you are doing something like this. You have to then integrate what you've copied and pasted and tell me why it's relevant. Okay, fundamentally, if you just leave as is, if you just strictly say, well, I'm done, here's what you need to know, done, finished, like let's go, that's not going to be right. Okay, so that's something that they just have to know. And last but not least, you definitely want to include a portion that talks about the overall conclusion. If you do not conclude, if there's no in-depth discussion about the conclusion, you'll suffer again. Okay? So you must conclude at least once at the end of each case in order for you to score perfect marks. Okay, we've talked about, this. Another question is that I often get is how much time do I need to study for each module? So we estimate approximately 250 hours per exam. Okay, CPA Canada recommends about 15 hours a week per week for your immersive cases and your practice cases. These are the ones, by the way, that start October if you're in the module. My suggestion is before you start in the module, go through our program, go through a few cases so you can hit the ground running before you actually get into the module, because the module will move so quickly. Okay, you need to be very comfortable with case writing before you actually jump ahead. Okay, that's extremely, extremely common. Now, I'm going to show you kind of a few parts about the program and just show you a couple of examples of our, multiple choice questions. But before we do this, I'd like for you to at least try to attempt a Core 1 level multiple choice question. And please state your answer as part of the live chat. Okay? In a complete set of IFRS statements, which of the following types of necessary information is provided by a statement of comprehensive income? So what is a statement of comprehensive income? Is it A, economic resources and claims? Is it B, financial performance reflected by accrual accounting? Is it C, financial performance reflected by past cash flows? Or is it D, changes in economic resources and claims not resulting from financial performance? State your answer in the live chat. So which one is it? Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Or is it D? Let me know. Would love to get your perspective here. Just want to get a feel to see if, if you are comfortable with some of this technical. You should be able to get through this, okay? Especially if you're at the CFE level. At this point in the game, you should be able to provide me with the answer to this. Okay, a lot of people are saying, I'm getting a lot of B's here. Does anyone think that it's something else other than B? Is anyone here, under the impression that it's not? Is anyone here thinking that it's not B? Does anyone think it's D? Is anyone? Okay, perfect. So, okay, great. The answer is B, right? Accrual accounting is comprehensive income. Other comprehensive income is not financial performance, right? So just anyway. So I also wanted to show you a few things about the Prep Formula site. And in order for me to do that, I wanted to first introduce a new feature. So what we're going to be doing now is covering a CPA Job Board. So for any of you that are here that haven't really seen this before, we've partnered up with a company called Luminary. And basically, Luminary notifies users, and kind of provides them with personally relevant opportunities. They show them jobs, projects, volunteer opportunities, and networking events, and we have integrated all of their jobs directly into our forums. So we'll actually show you kind of where that is. So starting now, you can actually find all CPA candidate jobs in our CPA forums, which is going to be free all throughout the year. This is incredibly important if you are considering either getting a new job or getting into the market. Let me actually just quickly walk you to how you could do this. Okay, so if you are on the Prep Formula site, and actually let me just quickly activate it. Let me know if you can see my screen here. So this is the main login page, right? A number of you may have seen our basic page, right? Let me just kind of give you a quick rundown of where you can find information. So this is the main site, okay? These are kind of listings of upcoming webinars right on the main page. So at the end of this webinar, you can actually go through additional information. Here's our mobile apps. We do have free mobile apps where you can view all of our experience and kind of log in. But all the way at the top of the page, you can log in and you can put in your Prep Formula credentials, and you'll get to a page that kind of looks like this. Okay, this is sort of what it looks like here so far. If you click on the forum, which is at the top of the page. Okay, if you click on the forum, sorry, actually, let me just quickly adjust the screen here. I'm going to try to move this down a little bit so you kind of have better visibility of where I'm at. There we go. Okay, if you click on the forum up here, you'll be redirected into the learning forums, and under accounting jobs, these are some of the new accounting roles that will be popping up. Like for example, something like this. Staff accountant at a CPA training office. If you're interested, you would just click apply, and as long as you are registered, it will directly take you to the job. Okay, so this is also showing where kind of where this specific job is. Okay, the address, a few highlights, a few perks, etc. Some other opportunities about being a general accountant, etc. Okay, so please check these out. I think they're going to be really important, and they will be continuously updated. We'll also have a bunch of new jobs popping up for September, which is hiring season. So in addition to all of this, if you go back into the main site, you'll click back on the dashboard. You'll find, assuming that you're registered in, say, Core 1, you'll find the actual Core 1 course resources. And there's a quick intro video here explaining how to do things, explaining how to receive your custom schedule, how things are monitored, etc. How do you get started right away? You can get started by watching other webinars, and we'll go through that in a second. There's all sorts of technical questions under each individual topic, which is this. In addition to that, there's quizzes for each individual subject found here. You can take the quiz. They're printable. You can quickly check and see if you're right or wrong. Okay. In addition to this, all of the different competency areas are covered. There's case marking services that show a test case along with a solution. for you to work on. Other cases for you to do, these are starter cases. More cases are available as part of the Core 1 program. There's past webinars. There's study groups. Okay. Study groups are groups that are created by other students that you can join. So for anyone that wants to do an online study group, for example, a Core 2 study group, you can just simply click become a member of, and you'll be able to communicate directly through the platform. Last but not least, all of our past webinars are included as part of the package. Same with the future webinar. So similar to this, we run a lot of technical webinars, teaching very basic technical skills and applying them to case writing. So what you'll actually be able to do is go through all of these methodically and go through specifically how do you write a CPA PEP case. Well, you can just go ahead and watch the webinar to be able to access this. There's a Core 1 review, there's a Core 2 review, there's things like the corporate finance review, which you can sign up for, assurance engagements review, okay, and all you can simply do is click on register now, and it's going to be free for you. Okay, so in addition to having credits, you also have access to your mentor. You can send them a quick message. You know, you can write them a note about that you're interested in starting and kind of doing a little bit of work together. You can submit a case. Okay, you can communicate them. You can adjust your profile, and this would be the ideal way to keep track of all of your course information. Okay. So basically, a PEP formula provides everything that you'll need to pass the first time around, and I do look forward to seeing you at our upcoming webinars, which are found over here. So next time around, on August 15th, we'll be having a CPA Assurance Review webinar. It's $55 for people who are not enrolled as part of the program or free. Then on August 17th, we have an earnings per share review, where we're going to be covering the basics of earnings per share. Then we'll talk about lease accounting, corporate finance methods, non-monetary transactions, and we'll continue from there. Okay, please check out our website for more information. And what I'd like to quickly just do here is transition back into the PowerPoint itself. Okay, and we're nearing the end of the presentation. Basically, just wanted to, if you have any additional questions about any of our learning programs for CPA Core or elective exams, please check out prepformula.com for more additional information. You'll find everything there. You will have access to this PowerPoint directly after, and you will have access to it right away. Please also check out our 2017 and 2018 full package, which includes a pass guarantee with ongoing access to all materials until you become a CPA. Okay, please visit prepformula.com for more information. And at this point, thank you for attending. If you have any questions, feel free to email me direct. Okay, this is my direct email address. This is my direct phone number. Feel free to check out all of our future webinars. I will be uploading the PowerPoint directly on the platform immediately after this webinar. Someone's just quickly asking me for something here, just to show them how you access and print PDFs here. So the way that you print PDFs basically is by accessing each individual course and clicking the bottom right section. Okay, so if you send me a quick email at the end of this, I'd be happy to explain it on how you would basically print off the notes for each video. Would definitely be able to help you. If you're not finding what you're looking for, make sure that you send a quick email directly to specifically education@prepformula.com, and we'll definitely help you out. At this point, I want to say thank you very much for attending this webinar, and thank you for spending your last hour with me. Feel free to connect with me if you have any additional questions. I will certainly be able to assist. In the meanwhile, I'm just going to stick around and see if there's any questions within the room. Okay, and otherwise, have a wonderful evening. Thank you for your time. So someone just asked me quickly about how do we find out more information about Prep Formula and costs and different packages. So the way that you would do this here, I'm just going to quickly activate and show you the site again. So if I log out, you can actually see all of the courses up here. So if you click on PEP courses, you can actually see all of the packages that are offered. For example, Core 1 Prep. If you click on View Course Options, it's currently available for December 20th or March 29th Core 1 exams. If you click on View Course Options, you'll be redirected below. We actually have an early bird special, which is ending in 2 days. We will be increasing our prices. So you can either purchase the Prep package at $297 or the Prep Plus package at $497. The main difference is in the number of credits that you receive, which is 2 versus 6. Okay, all webinars are included as part of this package as well. There's also an ability to pay using an interest-free installment plan for 3 months, and all you do is you just click this button, takes you like into this page, which splits up the payment into 3 individual months. If you want to save quite a bit of money, check out the 4 modules package, which basically is a combination of 4 different packages: Core 1, Core 2, and 2 electives of your choice at 40% off. Okay, if you want 40% off, this is how you do it. So if you buy everything together, it's $800 versus $1,200. Again, you can utilize the interest-free installment plan, or if you want the full package, which provides you with access all the way up until you're a CPA with future content updates, it's $14.98 or $17.98, and again, it's $4.99 per month or $5.99 per month for unlimited access until you are a CPA. Not a problem at all for anyone that found it helpful. Please check out our future webinars. There is a lot of content. We run a webinar twice a week, so there's a ton of information that's on the system, and we do everything online and through one-on-one sessions. So we're happy to help you out in any way that we can. Again, thank you so much for attending the session tonight. So someone's asking a very interesting question. Amanda asks, so do we have to leave our current jobs if we decide to try and get the full CPA? No, I mean, I don't think so. You will need to eventually get practical experience, but there is a way to get practical experience under the experience verification route. Oh, I see. I guess the question is more, do you have enough time? And the answer is yes, definitely. So the CPA program is meant to be done part-time. So we do work a lot kind of at this time. 8 p.m. generally is when we do our sessions. So, all of our services are available in the evenings or weekends, which is typically when most people study either way. So you don't actually need to quit. All of our services are usually extremely popular during the nighttime, kind of like this. So this is a typical webinar time, Amanda. By the way, for the record, this is a really good idea. So Amanda says, I know CGA seem to require switching jobs. Amanda, under the new process, it's significantly different. The CPA process does not require any switching at all. So you can actually just pursue this right now and you could get your full CPA without actually switching or changing jobs. That's very funny. Most employers today do pay for Core 1 and for the exams. Yeah, again, if you need any assistance, my suggestion is to get started as early as possible. And my recommendation is not to waste the summer. So get started before you actually enroll as part of Core 1. Okay. Check out our early bird that ends in 2 days. All right, folks. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I'm happy to assist in any way that I can. Please feel free to contact me with any of your questions. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy nights to attend tonight. Hopefully it was useful for you, and I really do hope to continue entertaining you at our future webinars. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Take care. Bye-bye.